Welcome Wolfpack to a quick Green Hell tutorial explaining my first steps when I first jump into the Amazon. This isn't the only way to start, it is simply my way to start. If you would like to share your way, please feel free to drop a comment down below and let us know. In this quick tutorial, we will discuss how to start off for success in any survival situation, but specifically in the game Green Hell. We will only touch on the early necessities to keep us alive through the first few days in the Amazon. We will cover basic medical, food, water, a few basic tools, basic fire, and a temporary hasty shelter. We will also discuss how to save our game so we don't have to start over when we die. And we will die. In the future, I will do focused videos on each of the topics mentioned, but this will get us going. Let's jump right into the Amazon and survive in Green Hell. Let's start by getting acquainted with the user interface on the bottom left. Our top bar is our health, and the bottom bar is our energy. We will also see our level of insanity to the left of those bars, which will come into play later on. By pressing the F button, we bring up our watch to keep a better eye on carbohydrate and fat count for food, water intake, and another view of our health stats. If any or all of these are depleted, or even on the low end, our master health bar on the main screen will start to trend down. If everything is good to go, our master health bar should trend up unless we have a medical issue. Additionally, if our energy is depleted, we will pass out on the ground and most likely wake up with more health issues to deal with. We can scroll through our watch with the middle mouse button to see our time and our current GPS location. A helpful tip that I use is to write down our GPS coordinates of points of interest or base camp locations so I can find them later if I get lost or turned around. By pressing the C button, we have our gameplay wheel. We can see a logo for our notebook. Our notebook is used to view and reference all of the recipes, skills, cures, information, and blueprints that we have learned for surviving. The notebook is also how we access the building blueprints for everything from fires to shelters and more. Placing the blueprints is straightforward. We simply select them in the book and place them on the ground when the hologram is white. A yellow hologram means that it is blocked by plants or objects that we can cut or move, and a red hologram means the area is unbuildable. In the wheel, we also have the option to sleep anywhere we like, but be warned that sleeping on the ground for any period of time will likely have us waking up with an unwanted visitor under our skin. The magnifying glass is used to inspect our body parts for medical issues. Get acquainted with this function as well, as we will be using it a lot. I will do a future video with all of the injury fixes, but for the purposes of this video, we will just make sure that if we see the magnifying glass in the bottom left during gameplay, that we will inspect our body thoroughly. Most of the time, it is just a pesky leech or three that will need to be pulled off. Be aware that leaving a leech on your body too long will cause us to get a worm and eventually go insane. The wheel also has crafting table access. The backpack is where we will spend a lot of our time, and there are several compartments. The first is a tools area where we can carry up to 5 tools or weapons. Once tools are picked up, they are carried here. The exterior part of the backpack is where we can carry a stockpile of sticks, small sticks, or rope. Clicking on the leaves is what I call the crafting area of the backpack, and that is where a lot of our items used to make more advanced items are stored. We also have a food area for the obvious, and then a fire area where our fire drill and fire starting materials will be stored. So now that I've spent the entire first day covering the user interface, let's get to our first survival tasks. I strongly recommend picking up stones, sticks, and small sticks immediately, and also gathering vines from trees which act as rope. We want to do this immediately as we start moving around in the jungle, as all of these items will be very important when we cover tools in the next few minutes. It is very tempting to start running around and look for things without paying attention to what is going on around us, and more specifically at our feet. While we are looking for food, water, and shelter, we must be cautious of what's on the ground. We may hear the rattle of a coiled snake. Sometimes they hide in the grass and you can't see them. Another distinct sound is a different rattling sound which also sounds like a snake, but it is the Goliath bird-eater spider. We may also hear the native tribesmen singing and talking in the distance. Haphazardly walking into any of these natural enemies will put a damper on our expedition. Squaring away the next few items will happen simultaneously, and it may be in the order that we start finding the items. Medical, water, food, and tools are in no particular order of importance, and I work on all of them as I start discovering those items in the game. We will cover fire and temporary shelter later, because a basic axe will most likely be needed to chop the trees for shelter most efficiently. Our key ingredient is the Molenria plant. This is the basic ingredient for every bandage in the game, and I never pass this plant if I find one. It is identified with its green leaves, and it has yellow flowers surrounding it at the base of the plant. I stock up on as many of these as possible. Trust me, we will need them. If I find a dead animal, we will hear flies buzzing when they're near, or I happen to be lucky enough to kill a larger animal, I make sure to take a few bones with me as well. Bones can be harvested into bone needles and then used to dig worms out from under our skin before bandaging. This basic knowledge will keep us alive. I will do a full Amazon medical tutorial in the future that will cover all bandages, medicinal plants, and mushrooms, and their properties that I've discovered so far. To craft a basic bandage, hover over, right-click, and then craft. You will bring it over. It takes one leaf to make a bandage. That bandage will be placed right back into your backpack. To save space, you will want to take these leaves and craft as many of these as possible early in the game. Water will be a constant battle throughout your entire time in the Amazon. We will be in a constant struggle to stay hydrated even though water is everywhere. We can't just saunter up to a murky riverbank and take a slurp and expect to be okay. We will definitely get a parasite or 7, and then we will have more issues to deal with. The best solution for water that I have found are found within the large green chunks of gold, coconuts, laying on the jungle floor. When they do have the green skin on them, like we find them, we can only pick them up in our hands like a large rock. To place it into our backpack, we must find a way to split the green skin off and get down to the hard brown shell. We can use any tool to accomplish this, and we're going to cover basic tools in a few minutes. There are several benefits to coconuts. When you get down to the brown shell, I like to right-click and drink from the coconut to increase my hydration. If this is the first coconut that I've found, I will right-click and harvest it. This will split the coconut in half and leave you with the 2 half shells. We then harvest the meat by right-clicking in our backpack, which will remove the coconut meat from the shell and place it into the food portion of our backpack. This will leave us with an empty coconut shell. If we have an immediate need for calories, we can right-click and eat the meat right out of the shell. This will also leave us the shell in our crafting area of the backpack. Do not discard the coconut shells. They are very handy. If we place them cup side up onto the ground and capture the rain, they will provide us with up to 10 hydration when they are filled up. I make it a point to drink during and after each rainstorm, as we will need all of the water we can get. Check out my full guide on finding basic fresh water after this video by clicking the playlist card at the end, or by clicking the link in either the description or the pinned comment down below this video. That video will also show you how to purify dirty water to make clean water using the items in this video. So make sure you watch that one after this one. If you do find a coconut on the ground, make sure you look up, and you can knock down other coconuts out of the tree by throwing a spear or other tool up there to grab it. Usually when you do find them on the ground, there are several up in the tree. We're moving on to tools, and then we will cover basic food and fire, but before I forget, if you are getting something out of this tutorial, please drop a like, and if you're new to the channel, please consider joining the Wolfpack Gaming community by subscribing to the channel and setting your notifications to all. For my style of gameplay, my basic tools include an axe, a couple of stone blades or a bone knife, a stone tip spear, but we may have to make do with a weak spear in a pinch. If we find ourselves in an area with bamboo, the bamboo spear is also a nice early weapon. Here's how we craft each. The stone blade is used by putting 2 rocks on the crafting table, and you will get your recipe to craft. I prefer to make 2 of these because one of these will go on the end of my spear. I like to move my knife over to this location because I cannot carry a tool there. This is where a knife goes. So we'll go ahead and craft a second stone blade. Now we have our second stone blade, and we're ready to craft our spears. We can use these stone blades to cut down these skinny trees like this, or any of the other smaller brush in the area. You will see that our blade skill will go up, and that can be monitored in the notebook. This will give us a couple of long sticks. The long sticks are what we need to craft our spears. To craft a weak spear, all we need to do is look at the long stick, right-click and craft, and we can craft our weak spear just by having a long stick. To make this weak spear a stone spear, we place a stone knife on the crafting table and 1 length of rope, and we can craft a stone spear. That is my preferred spear in the game so far. Bamboo spear is also nice. The bamboo spear can be crafted the same way. If we find a bamboo tree, you can chop it down just like we did the regular stick tree. The bamboo spear is crafted out of only the stick, and then we can also do a stone tip bamboo spear. We can craft a very crude stone axe with 1 stone and 1 axe, and you can craft a stone axe. Now you'll be able to chop down larger trees for a little bit more resources. Each of the long sticks can be harvested into shorter sticks, and when you click harvest on a long stick, those sticks will automatically drop into your backpack. A little bit more of an upgraded axe than the stone axe or the basic stone axe. I prefer to use 1 rope, 1 stick, and then 2 stones, and that will give us a regular axe, which is a little bit better than the crude stone axe. These tools are necessary to cut trees and brush, hunt and defend yourself, and to harvest animals after hunting. You will seriously handicap your gameplay without these basic tools. In the future, I will put together a video guide for primitive tools and advanced tools, and I will link that video in the description below. Keep in mind you can quickly cycle through your tools by using your middle mouse wheel, or you can use your 1, 2, 3, 4 numeric key. Any tool or weapon that is throwable, you can use your middle mouse button and press down. Your accuracy will gradually increase. To throw, you just release the middle mouse button. For the first few minutes of gameplay, maybe even for the first full day, we will be foraging for food derived from plants. The coconuts we mentioned earlier are a huge find for many reasons, including the fatty meat inside of them in addition to their crafting and survival uses. I also use these unknown nuts found underneath these types of trees for their fat content. Bananas found in this tree are great for carbohydrates. And this orange mushroom and these yellow mushrooms will serve us well for carbohydrates, and they can usually be found on logs rather quickly. We can survive for quite some time on only those few foods, assuming we can find enough of them. If we are lucky, we may come across the body of a parrot or mouse on the jungle floor, or we can get a lucky spear shot in on an animal or fish. We can cook that for protein as well. Also in the near future, I will be doing a guide to basic food that will describe what we can do and what we can and cannot eat in the jungle. After food, I recommend making either a palm leaf bed or a banana leaf bed, in case we become too exhausted to continue. We may have to make our bed earlier on, and we always have to monitor our energy. In many cases, our energy level is going to dictate where our first hasty shelter will be located, not necessarily where we want it. The bed is quickly constructed with 10 leaves of the type of blueprint that we choose. If you become too exhausted and pass out, or you sleep on the ground, you will wake up with a worm. Making a bed early will avoid the worm issues, and it will also avoid us getting into an out-of-control medical spin that we're not prepared to deal with just yet. After we did make our basic tools, we have to make sure that we are restocking on our sticks and small sticks so we have a replenished supply to start a fire with when we find our location for our hasty shelter. We will use the small fire blueprint, and we will place it anywhere on the ground, but I like to place it near my bed. The small fire blueprint will take 6 small sticks and 8 regular sticks to fill. And like I said, I like to leave enough room so that a stick or bamboo frame can be built so we can eventually protect our fire from the constant rainstorms in the Amazon. There is nothing more frustrating than expending the energy and materials to light a fire only to have the rain put it out immediately. Before we light the fire, we must have a fire drill. We can craft the fire drill with 1 stick and 1 small stick, or with 1 stick and 1 plank, which we can harvest from a log. I typically use the 2-stick combination as they are both readily available. We also need to make sure that we have dry leaves or a bird's nest available to use as fuel to get an ember. We can obtain dry leaves by chopping this type of palm tree down. We can also cut down any brush and either put the leaves in our backpack or place them on the ground to dry out. Once we have those items in the backpack, we must make sure that we have enough energy to light the fire. If our energy is low, we won't be able to conduct the fire drill operation long enough to get an ember. It is very possible that we may have to eat or take a quick nap to regain enough energy to light the fire. If we have enough energy, we can enter the fire area of our backpack and right-click and use the fire drill. Once we enter the fire drill screen, click and drag our bird's nest in the fire area, or if we're using dry leaves, we can click over to the crafting area of the backpack and drag the dry leaves to the base of the fire drill. The animation will start and we should get an ember. That can be placed into the fire blueprint by looking at it and pressing the E button. A tip from Father Joe left in the comments of one of our last live streams shows that we can harvest this bandage leaf and actually come up with fiber that is used for a fire starter. It will be immediately stored here, and this is actually where the bird's nest gets stored as well. So thank you, Father Joe, for leaving that tip. I appreciate that. You will notice that we have 2 cooking spots, one here and one there. This is a fuel spot, and you can fuel your fire. As it clicks down, you can fuel your fire by adding sticks to it. There is a timer on this fire that you will see. It will start to gain white, and then if you place sticks on it, it will start to decrease. So you can keep this fire going indefinitely. Being close to a fire will also decrease your insanity. Lastly, but almost equally important as anything else in this video, I construct a hasty shelter. This is the only way to save our progress. I personally like to use the stick or bamboo frame with either a palm leaf or banana leaf roof. I decide which material to use based on the location and materials available. Here we'll be using palm because it's everywhere. I prefer the frame and roof hasty hut as it can also be used to protect the fire from the rain. You can use the small shelter and the hut shelter shown here in the manual, and when you have fully constructed either of those shelters, your game can be saved by looking at that structure. In the case of the frame structure, the game can only be saved once the roof blueprint is complete, and you must look at the roof specifically to see the save game prompt. Although the stick frame does require a little bit more work to get the logs needed, in my opinion, it is definitely worth it. To find the 4 logs needed for our stick frame, we need to find these slightly larger trees, slightly thicker trees at the base just like this with the vines on them, and we cut them down. Drop a comment below if you have any suggestions for tutorials for Green Hell. Did I miss any early game first steps? Let me know in the comments below. If you're also a fan of strategy and simulation games, check out my second gaming channel showing up right now. Continue to the next Green Hell tutorial by clicking the playlist card showing up on your left, or if you've caught up on these tutorials, take a look at our Green Hell co-op series popping up on your right. Click either one of these links and we will see you over there.